Now, the show dedicated to rebuilding Washington, D.C.'s metropolitan housing and credit markets with the timely, trusted advice you need to make the right decisions. This is the Todd Laborowitz Show.
Good afternoon. As your friend and host, Todd Laborowitz, I'm privileged to share every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. with you on the Todd Laborowitz Show, which is part of Real Estate Radio Network here on Salem Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. And here with me in the studio is Jeanne Shawahin. She's an elected director of Maryland Land Title Association, and she's going to share with us about title insurance, which when you buy a house or you refinance, you're always going to see on that HUD one, no matter how many times you do it, you're going to see a lender's paid title insurance, and when you purchase a house, an owner's title insurance policy. And we're going to get into more depth about that now. So, Jeanne, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations, you're elected director of a big organization over here in Maryland.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this is just part-time for you. You're full-time over at Pinnacle Title.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get into it to start out. What is title insurance?
Title insurance is a policy that protects purchasers and lenders from the loss after settlement, such as defects, outstanding liens, delinquent taxes, something that may have been missed or hidden that maybe what didn't show up on the title search.
So every loan that has any loan that's being done.
Yes.
The closing cost, there's always going to be title insurance.
Correct.
Even if you refinance a week later.
Correct.
So why would someone have to get title insurance?
A lender's title insurance policy is mandatory by the lender. A lender's title insurance policy insures the lender up to the loan amount for the life of the loan. So when you pay off a loan, for example, in a refinance, if you're going to refinance your property, you're going to pay off a mortgage. That lender's policy becomes null and void because you've paid it off. You have to get a new policy to cover the new loan for the new loan amount.
Okay, so we have car insurance, and you have health insurance, and you got life insurance. So now you have title insurance.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal, but it's also a one-time premium for a lifetime guarantee.
Okay, now let's get into what the owner's policy. Now that's an optional fee.
Correct.
But why would someone get it versus not get it?
Owner's title insurance policy is different than the lender's, where in the owner's policy is going to cover the owner up to the sale price for as long as they own the property. So it doesn't ever become null and void until they sell the property.
Okay, and then they can reuse that policy to reissue on a lender's policy should they refinance.
Correct. If they like I said, it's a one-time premium for a lifetime guarantee for any outstanding issues against the property. Oh, and when they refinance, they'll be able to use that owner's policy to get what's called a reissue rate, which is a discount on the lender's title insurance premium. However, in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, the underwriters have come out with a refinance rate, which is the reissue rate basically automatically. So you can get it now without the owner's policy.
Which is great. It's a huge amount of savings, and you have to dig up your owner's policy because a lot of times when people close, they keep that packet.
Correct.
And they don't realize it a couple weeks later is when the owner policy comes, and if you don't put that into the packet,
correct,
you're not going to be able to find it, or it's going to...
Correct. The last few files I've had, though, many of the files these days have a lot of title issues, so I still end up having to obtain the policies. The good thing is you can go to your underwriter and get the back policies right from there without having to call the consumer.
Okay, so let's talk about the policies, because you said you got a couple claims on policies. What I've experienced is if someone has owner's title insurance and they have lender's title insurance, which of course they have, the underwriter just say, oh, they have it, let's not file a claim, let's just reissue a policy. Why don't they go back and just clean it up?
Well,
like what happens if the next person that buys the house doesn't get owner's coverage? It's like they're passing the buck.
At my company, we do clean it up if it's at all possible. What's generally what you get is when you obtain the owner's policy, you have to get a letter of authorization or a letter of indemnity. If it's something that can't be cleaned up immediately and you don't want to delay settlement, the underwriter already insured it, so they're going to reinsure it, giving you a letter of indemnity, holding you harmless for any claims because they've already insured it once. Okay. So they're already on the hook for the claim.
Got it. And as far as your company, I know you clean it up. but there's so many companies that don't clean it up. Like, what's going on? Where's the integrity?
I wish I could answer that. I clean up a lot of messes. I like the messy
Give me a situation.
files.
Give me a situation of a recent one.
Okay, the biggest problem I find is national title companies, because they're not local. They don't really have the manpower locally to kind of run over to the courthouse, walk paper through. They don't have the follow through. Once the file closes, it's done. And something might get misindexed in the courthouse. Something might not get filed correctly, might get rejected. Releases don't get filed.
Perfect. Well, by the way, if you're just tuning in, I have with me Jeanne Shawahin, elected director of Maryland Land Title Association. Now, the title insurance, whether you get owner's policy or you, of course, have to get the lender's policy, it goes how many years back? 60
years the search goes back. We check the land records for 60 years.
And they talk about forgery.
Yes.
How do you identify that, or like what are some situations you see?
Well, you can't always identify forgery because sometimes it's a full circle. You know, years and years ago, there was a fraud ring in Baltimore where they had the appraiser, the lender, the title company, the surveyor, everybody was in on it. So in that case, you can't really figure it out until payments don't get made or something bad happens. But you can sometimes, looking at the abstract when it comes back, if the chain doesn't look right or something just looks wrong, you can't follow the chain correctly from this owner to the next owner to the next owner, then you have to kind of put the pieces together, what's missing. Maybe request more information. Maybe something was misindexed and didn't come out in the search correctly. Sometimes people will type a tax ID wrong or the property address wrong or the owner's name incorrectly, so it doesn't come up when you do an abstract because it's not pulling up correctly under the name, address, or tax ID. So, but forgery, I mean, it could be someone brought a girlfriend to the settlement table instead of their wife, claiming it was their wife.
Wow.
And had her sign as the wife. And then the wife comes back later and says, by the way, this is my property. I didn't sign over my rights. That was someone else.
People will do the wildest things. Well, getting into the title insurance, is it the lender's policy or is it the owner's policy that kicks in for, like, say there's forgery or something isn't adding up? Like, is it?
I guess it would depend on who was making the claim. If the lender, so if someone refinanced and they didn't have an owner's policy, they would have to make a claim on the lender, or the lender would have to make a claim on the lender's policy. If they weren't in, we're really insuring the lender a first lien position. When we issue insurance to the lender, we're guaranteeing them they are the first lien holder of the property.
Okay, so if there's a threat to the lender's policy kicks in. If there's a threat to the owner of the property, then the owner's policy kicks in. It's
Correct.
whoever whose door is getting pushed down.
Correct. And that's why you want an owner's policy, because if there is an issue, you don't want to have to come up with those legal fees out of your pocket. You want to call the title insurance company and let them fight that battle for you.
Perfect. And with the refinance, and you see an issue, you like to clean it up right then and there, because
Yes.
God forbid that issue comes up during a purchase transaction. You got your movers, got your settlement dates, everything else, and it just falls apart.
That's right. That's right.
So during this refi boom, make sure you pick the right title company, because if you don't, and they just put it under the rug, it could cause some headaches later.
Right. And there are Band-Aids to it some title companies do just to get to the settlement table, but it doesn't resolve the issue for future settlements.
Now, as far as Maryland Land Title Association, you basically represent all the people in Maryland and kind of like help them with continuing ed. There's an ethics guideline and so forth. How did you get involved with that organization?
MLTA, also, what people don't know is one of the biggest things we do is lobby for the laws for our industry, which is great.
Well, MLTA is Maryland Land Title Association.
Correct. I got involved. Just one of the agents I worked with said, hey, I want you to come to this convention, and hey, why don't you be on a committee? So I got involved in the convention committee, and I worked on the committee for a few years, and I chaired the convention for several years, and then I said, hey, I want a board position.
That's amazing. Well, Jeanne Shawahin, Director of Maryland Land Title Association, really appreciate you having you here, because a lot of people have questions about that title insurance.
Thank you, Todd.
Well, coming up next after these messages, we got Lisa Abrams from Remax Town Center. real estate agent over at Park Potomac. We'll be right back after these messages.
You don't go through life with a paralyzing fear every time you have a financial transaction. So why is applying for a mortgage so scary? At Topaz Mortgage with Todd Laborwood, it is about educating and empowering you to get from point A to point B. Todd provides you with his exact closing cost, best interest rate, then invites you to shop around. Plus, if you call with questions, Todd picks up with the answers. Learn more at whytopaz.com. They are industry experts that care. Topaz Mortgage, NMLS 131548, licensed by the Virginia State Corporation Commission, MC 5344, Washington, D.C., MLB 131548, Maryland 18330, Todd Laborwood, NMLS 131497.